And as I said when we first came on today, 57 years today since one of New Zealand's worst maritime disasters. It unfolded just off our coastline, claiming 51 lives, but shattering the lives of many, many more, and forever etched in our memories that lives in Wellingtonians and indeed New Zealanders. Another individual died several weeks later, by the way, and the 53rd victim succumbed to injuries sustained during the sinking in 1990. On the morning of the 10th of April 1968, Cyclone Giselle collided with a brutal southerly, unleashing the most violent storm the capital had recorded. Winds hitting 275 kilometres an hour, waves towering at 10 metres. The Wahine, the inter-island ferry at the time, struck Barrett Reef in the early morning darkness and eventually engulfed by Wellington Harbour. Passengers and crew clung to lifeboats, leapt into the icy water and fought to survive as the ship listed and capsized near the Wellington Heads, close to Seatoon, whose residents looked on in horror as the events unfolded. But what happened next showed the true heart of the city, Wellingtonians becoming heroes. Lifesavers, tugboat crews, harbour pilots and ordinary citizens braved the storm, pulling passengers from the surf, hauling survivors ashore, offering blankets, hot cups of tea and also shelter. One lifeboat, skippered by Quartermaster Tom Dartford, carried nearly 100 people to safety, despite the crushing waves and chaos. Although the main cause of the accident was the atrocious weather, a subsequent court of inquiry found that errors of judgment had been made both by on board the ferry and on shore. Now, the day before the Wahine sank, 19-year-old Louella Jensen had just finished her passing out parade for the Air Force. The fresh recruit was on top of the world despite it having literally rained on her parade. She thought little of the bad weather as she and her fellow recruits prepared to board the ferry from Christchurch to Wellington. Despite the mutterings of a rough journey ahead, Luella and her friends headed straight to the cafe, unaware of what was about to unfold. And Luella Jensen joins me now. Good afternoon, Luella.
Good afternoon. Thank you for asking me to come.
How wonderful to talk to you. Take us back, Luella. The seas were rough when you boarded the Wahine with your friends, but initially you weren't concerned, were you?
No. The ferry was actually 40 minutes late leaving Lyttelton because it had to wait for carriages to come with goods on from later, further on in the South Island. And some people say that if she'd sailed on time, we would have missed it. But, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But it was bobbing up and down in the dock, and you just thought, oh well, I don't usually get seasick, but maybe tonight.
Oh, but you even slept through the night, didn't you? And then what happened?
Yes, we there were 12 or 13 of us, and I ended up in a full berth cabin on my own, and the other girls were in the same aisle of the boat. They used to come around with a lovely cup of tea and one of those thick railway cups and saucers, and a couple of wine biscuits. They had started doing that, and then all of a sudden it was like feeling if you were in a car going up this steep hill, and you couldn't get back down, and the power blinkered out a couple of times, and you could hear the cups and saucers going every which way, and then a crewman were each given certain areas to go and wake the people up. And they said, get dressed, put your life jackets on, and you'll need to go to the muster stations.
So at this stage, Luella, was there any announcement, like over a PA, or was it them coming to your room?
No, it did come over the PA system to say, I can't remember exactly what was said, apart from the fact you need to get dressed and, be prepared to, you make sure you put your life jacket on. And, of course, in those days, as you entered a ferry cabin on your left or right, whichever part of the ship you were in, there was a diagram there of how to put your life jacket on with instructions. And, of course, lots of people ignored it and thought, we'll never need it, but they have to do it. And so you just got dressed in I put my life jacket on, and a steward came in and said, "Let me help you." So he did, and they actually double knotted it and tied it on, and then they came back and took us to the muster station.
So you've said that there was little panic at this time amongst the passengers. Do you think it's because they weren't quite aware of what was happening? I mean, how were you feeling at this stage?
Oh, I was feeling fine, and I thought, and when there was this big, like I said, going up a hill, I thought, oh, cripes, I hope it doesn't hold the train up, because I was due to get the 9 o'clock train from Wellington to New Plymouth.
Right.
Well, of course, that went another way. But,
Yes.
no, there didn't seem to be any panic, and they didn't say what had happened.
Yeah.
But, we just
So
went
everyone
to the
just-
muster station.
Yeah, so you just did what they said. Can you tell
Yes.
us, Luella, about one of the stewards? He had a guitar in his room. And
Yes.
what did he started singing, was it?
We were sitting on the floor in the muster stations, and the muster stations were on, I don't know whether it was B deck or what, but anyhow, they brought round a few chairs out of the cafeteria for people to sit on, but we were all sitting on the floor. And he came and out with his guitar and said, "All right, any requests?" Well, we sang for the next 6.5 hours. It was great. It helped to relieve the monotony.
Oh, my gosh. So by now, as you said, you sang for 6.5 hours, so nearly 7 hours passed, and the Wahine had hit the reef. So it was nearly 1 in the afternoon. How were people feeling then, Luella? Was there starting to get a bit of tension in the room?
They did. Yeah, they did say that they would try and take us off the Wahine onto another boat that would
Right.
come up from Wellington. And I thought, oh, crikey, it's going to be like in the movies with those blimmin' ropes and things, and I don't have a good head for heights. And I thought, oh, jeepers. Anyhow, one of the boats duly did come up, but it was too rough, and they couldn't get close enough to do what they needed to do. So, people were getting a little bit anxious, and of course, people with small children were trying to, look after them as well.
And by now, the boat was really listing dangerously, and you've described how the crew handled it. Like, they formed a human chain for passengers.
Yes, they did.
How incredible!
They said they made an announcement over the loudspeaker system that everybody would go to the starboard side of the boat, please. Well, I didn't know 57 years ago which was port and which was starboard, and I still don't know. But I've managed to get on with life. So yes, we had to go through the boat out to the other side, and of course what I was going to say, the floor, for the want of a better word, the deck. Had so much salt water on it, it was very slippery. So you had to be very careful, and you were passed hand to hand. And I ended up sort of right round the other side, and we were way up high. Gosh, it was amazing. And I thought, oh, what's that black spot down there? And it was actually a tugboat that couldn't help us then. And in the 57 years since, Wellington still doesn't have suitable tugs to, if they had to repeat it. But never mind,
So how did you get down into that? What ship or what boat did you end up getting on?
Oh, no, nobody got onto any boats. The tugs just sort of watched from the distance.
Right.
And then they said abandon boat. So people that were able to get out to the life raft or the lifeboats, that was okay. But by the time we got back across the deck and through the boat again, all that we could see was a couple of inflatable life rafts that were just taken off with the wind. Fortunately, nobody was in them, but they were then wondering, what do we do? And having grown up in Wellington, I saw the lighthouse thingy at C2, and I knew exactly where I was, and I could swim. But and then there was some more crew appeared, and they said, right, what we're going to do is they've found a life raft, and there were maybe about 20 of us at this particular point, and there was a gap in the railing, and they said, we're going to grab you, one under each arm, and on 3, away you go. Well, it was 40 feet from the Wahine to the life raft. Now, and it was 1, 2, 3. You were literally thrown, and I had a horrible feeling, thinking, "Oh well, nobody can see us," because pantyhose hadn't come into the military in those days. It was still suspenders and stockings.
Yeah.
But never mind. I landed in the middle of the life raft. The problem was the life raft was upside down. But,
What?
Yeah, and so a man travelling with his wife and 2 children and another crewman jumped into the sea and tried to right in it, but they couldn't. So they just sort of held it a bit where it was. So it just so happened I was at the head of the queue, so I was number 1, and I did land in the middle of it. And then they just other people were thrown in. That's all you could do. As the swell brought the Wahine over to the life raft, like it rolling, that's when you got thrown.
God, Louella, so the life raft's upside down, people are in the water.
Yep.
You ended up just, sitting on the life raft?
We were sitting on top of the life raft.
Yeah, upside down.
And having just done my very basic Air Force training,
Yeah.
oh yes, well I know, if we could get this jolly thing up the right way, there are flares, there's this and there's that, you know.